I guess it's probably easier to go on this. Okay, I see the microphone is sometimes up on the table, so I'm going to use this one. I would like to welcome everyone this evening to our monthly community council meeting. We have a great guest speaker tonight, which we'll get into very shortly, but I'd like to start out having called the meeting order to have our leadership team kind of go through and identify who they are and what particular subject matters they represent as part of our strategic plan or other. So let's start with Chief Lilienthal down here, and we'll just move down the table.
Okay, so I'm Michael Lilienthal, the Deputy Chief of the Dorado Fire Department, responsible for public safety. What I try and do is network the issue you have with the appropriate agency that can help solve it. So we have a CHP here tonight on the Sheriff's Office. I try and get all those people together for public safety.
I'm John Davey. I'm the chair of the Dorado Area Planning Advisory Committee, and we're a volunteer group of residents that looks at development plans as they're presented to the county before they hit their approvals here for El Dorado Hills, and we meet once a month on the second Wednesday typically.
Which we have a tough time hearing sometimes with the recording.
I'm not loud.
Thank you. I thought you were doing okay.
Okay.
Some people, yeah.
Well, now I'm going to turn my phone stick.
Okay, I'm Dick Ross. Good governance is the label associated with my activities. I try to engage in various aspects of the county government and relate it back to citizens and how citizens can participate and facilitate county government.
My name is Glenn Krakow. I represent District 1 at the Community and Economic Development Advisory Committee.
I'm John Canadian. I'm your District 1 Planning Commissioner. So we have meetings twice a month up at the county offices, and we review discretionary projects, subdivisions, commercial projects, telecommunication towers, and the like, and so forth. So.
I'm Cindy Munt. I'm Supervisor High House Assistant, and for this group, I do the community information and outreach.
And Josh Elder, Dr. Josh Elder is not with us this evening, but he does health and healthy communities, which is our health and human services type of outreach. So I want to thank all the leadership team members for being recognized. We also try to identify any District 1 commissioners and committee members that may be present this evening. I don't see anyone. I thought Dennis Byrne was going to be here. Chris Whitaker is here, so we'll have Chris talk, so that's a good point. Well, Chris, under Supervisor's Communications, talked about the El Dorado County Fair, what's going on this year, so welcome, Chris. But not seeing anyone else, we'll go ahead and move on then to adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Does anyone on the leadership team have any suggestions, proposed changes, whatever, to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll accept that as submitted. Moving on to public comment. This is the opportunity we always provide for anyone who's here this evening to speak to an item that's not on tonight's agenda. So if you have an item you'd like to speak to, so the community council can understand what your issue is, and it's not part of the planned agenda, now would be the time to step forward, and we'll provide the microphone, and you can certainly raise your question. So. We'll give you this and see if we can make it work again.
We can speak loudly too. It's okay.
Yeah, we have a pickup on this. You're probably close enough from here.
I'll catch it.
Wow. Okay, maybe we can't get it. Test. Not sure what happened. It's green. Okay, well, we'll figure it out later.
Right. Okay, here. Hi, I'm Kate Ellison, Erica Davis. We're neighbors on Crown Drive. So we were here for an update on the speeding issue that we've been having on our street. And I know that there's been other communication with some of our neighbors.
Gina Mackey brought it up last meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So any updates you have would be great.
So we have a representative from our CHP local command here this evening. So we're going to cover that under public safety because there's other items.
Okay.
So we're going to get a report from the Sheriff's Department, CHP, and then also our fire department relative to local issues. The lead for the public safety aspect is Chief Lilienthal. Okay. So he kind of collects the inputs and the ideas and then works with the local law enforcement agencies to try to make sure they're aware of it. So, for instance, the cut-through problem down in Crown Village. He went out and took a look at it. So he has first-hand knowledge of what's going on before he communicates it with our law enforcement. So that will be coming up.
Okay. All right.
Wait till
Thank
then.
you.
Thank you for attending. Any other public comment? Okay, then without any further delays, I want to introduce our guest speaker, Shelley Blair. And Shelley is with the State Department of Fish and Wildlife. She's an environmental specialist, environmental scientist, and she's going to speak a little bit about the El Dorado County deer situation, particularly in residential communities, some of the things that are going on that are not favorable for the deer population. But since Dennis Byrne, who is our Fish and Game Committee member, is not here, I do want to recognize Shelley from the standpoint that Fish and Game Committee, which is a set of volunteers appointed by supervisors with some at-large members, are very thankful that Shelley's on the team because she's one of these people who communicates well, shares ideas, has creative solutions to things, and keeps that committee and the Board of Supervisors informed of what's going on. So thank you for all that on behalf of the Fish and Game Committee. And with that, I'll let you go ahead with the introduction.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Shelley Blair. I am a wildlife biologist for El Dorado and Alpine counties, so I handle all the wildlife management issues in those counties, and I also am the land manager for all state-owned properties we have. So I manage properties such as Land Hill Ecological Reserve, owned by the state of California. So my duties are very broad, but I love this county. I live in the county near Gold Hill, and this is an issue that I'm really thankful that I get to address. I've had a lot of calls in the El Dorado Hills areas regarding deer, and some of the calls are regarding people that are not that don't think favorably of the deer, because there's a lot of them in the neighborhood. So I'm going to go over part of the reason why that's happening, and unfortunately, a lot of times the people that need to hear the message don't attend these meetings. So if you have neighbors, can spread the word for me. That would be very, very helpful. I would appreciate it. See if this is going to work.
Before you just go.
Okay. And it doesn't show it up on that screen, does it?
Can I make the file work?
Okay.
There we go. He's got the key. There you go.
All right. Okay.
You don't know who did it. I'd see it work.
There. Okay, it's working. Okay. So I'm just going to go over a little bit. Some people have this idea that all deer are migratory deer, but biologists don't consider deer migratory unless they're moving long distances because of food resources and weather conditions. So in California, we have a variety of different subspecies of deer, and they range from the desert deer to the mule deer that are on the Sierras. And what we have here is the black-tailed deer, and they're usually smaller. They occupy variable habitats, and the difference between the migratory and resident deer is the resident deer have a home range of like a half a mile maybe, and you guys probably are dealing with the resident population here. So just basic biology and reproduction, their average lifespan is six and a half years, but we've had deer that have lived over 20 years. We know this by we can age their teeth. And so we're learning more that they can live longer if the conditions are right. Does later on in their life, they don't produce fawns anymore. So they mate in late November and December. I don't know if anyone knows about the rut. We call it the rut. The deer, the bucks get in rut. They get big necks. They start becoming very aggressive. And this is a huge problem because especially in neighborhoods where the deer are very habituated, because they become aggressive towards your pets, towards your families, and this, like I said, this behavior happens when the deer are mating. So, and then actually in the lower elevations, the rut actually starts in October, so it starts a little earlier. They have a 7-month gestation, the young born in early summer, so you guys might be seeing fawns right now. Again, lower elevations start fawning earlier, so late May to June, you'll see fawns drop. And this is a problem for the females, because when the females have fawns, they become more aggressive. So if you have a habituated deer that your neighbors are feeding, even they can be very aggressive towards your pets and to your family. So, and then the fawns stay with the mother for the first year. I've seen fawns stay around the family groups in residential herds for longer than that, though. Okay, so this is the issue: why you should not feed deer. Number one, it's against the law. It is illegal to feed big game, and that is in the California Code of Regulations, Title 14. You can be cited for it. So most of the time, a warden will come to a residence that they know of feeding an animal intentionally, and they will give a warning. We are trying to make this, right now it's a misdemeanor. We're trying to make it an infraction so that people are fined, so there's consequences to the behavior, because we really need this to stop. People think it's a good idea, but it's not. And even though feed stores sell it, so all the feed stores around the area sell deer chow, it does not make it legal in California to use it. And we've spoke with the feed stores, but they make a lot of money on this deer chow, so they're not willing to put it away. Another reason why you shouldn't feed, feeding wildlife, particularly deer, congregates them in a manner that is unnatural. When they're consistently fed, deer will overbrowse their surroundings and negatively impacting their native habitat. So again, you're just drawing in loads of deer into one central area, and they're constantly browsing everywhere. So I'm sure you guys have seen this big groups in your neighborhoods. This is another reason why high deer densities can attract predators and increase the risk of death by coyotes and domestic dogs. So all these pictures are from El Dorado County. The picture with the mountain lion across the fence is actually in El Dorado Hills. It killed a deer on somebody's basically back porch. The one that's on the deck there is a young lion that chased a domestic cat on a deck and then decided to sun there, and that was right off the Highway 50 off of Bedford. So, and that was an area where people were feeding the deer. So that's one reason why you do not want to create a big grocery store in your backyard, because you will attract predators. The other problem with it that is very detrimental to deer is that it can spread disease. So the top picture is, there's a bunch of fibroids all over this animal. It's basically warts. And it is not fatal. It's like a human wart on a hand or whatever. But it's a skin virus that is very, very contagious to other deer. And when they get it, like this, it can affect their feeding, it can affect their eyesight, so they can't see very well. And then on the bottom, there's something called hair loss. And so when an animal becomes sick or immune compromised, it gets overloaded with parasites. And so one of the things that they can have is the exotic lice, which causes hair loss. It's very irritating to the deer, so it will groom and lose all the hair. So if you see that, that's going to be a problem. The other things we have, we've had outbreaks in El Dorado County of adenovirus. It's basically a hemorrhagic disease. The deer basically bleeds from the inside out. It's a virus that is highly contagious when you're congregating animals, especially at a feed site. So there's various other things. Lungworm, like I said, the parasite overloads. When the deer gets compromised, then it's going to probably not be good for the animal. These are some other pictures of some diseased deer. The one in the left corner there has diarrhea, and so I've had calls in the El Dorado Hills area of lots of deer that are skinny, that are suffering from this. They're that's one that I picked up and did a necropsy on. So they start having really bad body condition. And usually you see it in an area, again, where people are feeding the deer. The other issue is that you are increasing the likelihood of vehicle collisions because you're getting them in areas or in and around houses. So I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of collisions with deer on the side roads down here, not just the Highway 50 area, but all the side roads too. They become very used to being around cars and humans, but it's a safety issue for people to avoid these animals on the road, and it's obviously bad for the deer too. So results in overbrowsing of local vegetation and ornamental plants. So your neighbors don't want herds of deer eating their extensive landscape. I get this all the time, these calls that, I have a herd of 20 deer in my yard, my neighbor's feeding them, they're eating everything in my house, and I want them to go away. And so when you do this activity, you're affecting your neighborhood. It also denies access to food because subordinate deer are kept away from the feed sites. And then that bottom picture, that's a game trail camera picture of a very dominant doe and basically fighting off the younger animals. So they will become very aggressive towards each other. And so the deer behavior is altered when artificial feeding exists. And deer that are fed food that the microfauna in their stomachs cannot digest will actually starve to death with a stomach full of food. So people leave out corn and other items that the deer will eat, but their digestive systems cannot handle it. And we've had a lot of instances where the deer actually die from eating the stuff that people are putting out. So these digestive microorganisms are specific to food type. Unnatural foods will put them in poor body condition, and that's when you start seeing deer that are very skinny. So, while you love seeing animals in your backyards, like this, and that, it has very negative consequences when people intentionally feed them. So this is usually what happens as well. Deer, I get hundreds of calls of deer stuck in something. So, again, they're very habituated to being around houses and stuff, so people have hammocks up, they've got fencing everywhere, they have bird feeders out, they've got, containers with stuff that a deer might want, and this is usually what happens. I think that's a volleyball net in that buck's antlers, and then you can see the can around the neck of that other deer. I had a dog cone of shame on a deer up in Placerville. I had one stuck in a rope swing. Its antlers, it actually broke its skull cap because it was trying to get away. And then I think this is just like a landscape O-ring on the hoop of that one there. And it's really hard to, when these animals get in this predicament, it's really hard to help them. We basically have to know where the animal is. It has to be pretty routine. And then we have to dart the animal with drugs to immobilize it. And when we dart them, if they're able to run off, it takes 10 minutes for the drug to take effect. So that's a long ways for an animal to be able to go in a neighborhood. It's also risky in a neighborhood because it could run into a road, it can run into a pool. We've had that happen. They've gone into water bodies when they've been drugged, and so it's not just a real quick and dirty, hey, we're going to come out and respond and get that net off that antler. So when we get calls like this, we really have to assess the dangers versus the benefits of actually intervening in these situations. So people are killing them with kindness. Please don't be one of those people. Deer do not need our help to survive. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
You didn't mention Lyme disease. How prevalent is that here? Are we finding it? Because back east, you see it a lot, and people are really impacted by the ticks and that spread of that disease.
Well, obviously, if there's a lot of deer, there's going to be ticks. So if you're bringing deer to your yard, you're bringing ticks as well. Lyme disease is a disease that's kind of a lot of times misdiagnosed. So I think that it's probably happens a lot more than we know. There's a lot of other diseases that manifest the same symptoms as Lyme disease. So it's very difficult to know just exactly how many suffer from in our county. But I would definitely be careful for sure, and not intentionally congregate these animals that have these ticks. So that's a good point. Yeah.
What do you do with the animals that are sick? Are you called out to call them?
It depends. So animal control will come out if a deer is not mobile, like if it's laying down and it can't get up, they will come out and dispatch the animal. I know local law enforcement officers also do this, but we typically don't respond. I don't. Our wardens do. I'm not allowed to carry a firearm to dispatch an animal, nor can I carry the drug to put it down. So I usually rely on local law enforcement or my wardens to intervene in those situations. We don't treat wild animals. It's a natural phenomenon when animals are sick. That's what happens in nature. So we don't take them to a facility and treat them. Yeah. Yes.
Chronic wasting disease?
So chronic wasting disease, yeah, that is not in California yet. However, we are ramping up our surveillance for that. Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a matter of time. That disease originated, I believe, in Colorado, and it has spread over the last couple decades, and it's coming further to the west. It's a scary disease because it's basically like the mad cow disease, but it's in deer. And scabies is what it is in the sheep species. So people are concerned about that. People being exposed to that. And it's a disease that it's about 18 months before an animal will even show signs of sickness. So it can be shedding the virus or the prion. It's an actual protein. It's not a virus. It can be shedding it for 18 months on it and look healthy on the landscape, but they all succumb to it, all the animals. So if we get in California, it could be a huge hit to our deer herds here. So we are ramping up surveillance for that. Yeah.
Can it be spread to humans?
There's scientific studies. There's no proven studies that have been done that it does spread to humans. However, they did a study on macaques. I think they're monkey species that are closely related to humans, and they fed them copious amounts of meat from infected animals, and they did show up with the disease. So people are very concerned because of the species. We're not sure if it can cross the species line. So I think the CDC recommends that if you out-of-state hunters that have positive meat, that they dispose of it, not ingest that meat. So, yeah.
A couple of months ago, we had 2 deer deceased on our property within about a week's time, and there wasn't any, thing to indicate that they were attacked or what have you. Is that something that you want reported to you guys, or?
I actually, as a local biologist, I really like to know about those situations because I kind of like to know where the little hot outbreaks are in the county. And so when you have multiple deer on your property dying, I like to try, if I can, logistically get a carcass, a fresh carcass, and I will do a necropsy and take samples to try to assess what it died of. Sometimes we're not able to, but sometimes we are, and then it gives me a good idea of what's happening in the county and if we need to be concerned.
Do you work with Sierra Wildlife at all, or?
I have some coordination with them. Dave Cook is the fawn rehabber, and so I work with him in a lot of areas. And I have contact with some of them. Yeah.
I called him for direction.
He's fantastic. Very knowledgeable. Yeah, Dave's great.
Historically is deer population in El Dorado County where higher or lower? What's the prognosis of deer population in general?
So we believe that the resident population is increasing. You probably have seen this in your neighborhoods. There's a lot of resource, but we are very, very concerned about the migratory herds in the mountains. I currently have a collar and deer study in the Crystal Basin area. Those deer hang out in the Crystal Basin, and then they migrate to Swansboro and Georgetown. And I have about a 60% mortality rate on those animals, which is very, very high. And there's a lot of predation happening. We've found out now that when mountain lions kill something, a bear will come and take that kill, and so the mountain lion has to kill again. So that's having an impact on the migratory herds. But as far as the resident herds, we're thinking that it's pretty healthy. That the population is pretty good. But we are needing more development, obviously, in our county. So that's going to be an issue because there's not a lot of space for them to go. So yeah, that'll be the limiting factor here.
About 3 years ago, we had about 2 bucks, big giant ones, living under our deck, which we didn't want. And so I was asking, how can we get rid of them? And can you dispatch them yourself? So we asked for I don't know what law enforcement says, but I'd like to hear that. But John actually gave us the key to it. And we put some ultrasonic rodent repellers under the deck. And that got rid of them. So we didn't have to dispatch them, but they were, they're dangerous because you wouldn't even, where they're there, you'd walk by and then you hear this big rustle because they get scared. They can run out and really hurt you because these things are big.
Well, we have something in our department called a depredation permit, and if if someone's experiencing damage from a deer, bear, mountain lion, beaver, or gray squirrel, then they can request a depredation permit if they've had property damage. And I've also issued for a public safety as far as an aggressive deer that is like going after your dog. I've had 3 huge dogs killed in El Dorado County, or in El Dorado Hills, from deer, from stomping, deer stomping them to death. So if you have an aggressive animal around your area, then you can contact me. You're not legally supposed to shoot an animal. Yeah. And if you do happen to do that, like if you feel threatened or your dog is threatened, then you contact us and we can follow up with a depredation permit once we investigate it. So, but again, that's a product of these deer becoming very habituated because people are feeding them. And Auburn Lake Trails, they come into people's garages and sometimes houses, and they can be fed by hand. I mean that's so dangerous for the animal and the people. So yeah, they're not pets.
One other comment. I ride along the American Bike Trail, along the American River, and there are occasions when 4 deer will run across the bike and pedestrian path and have hit cyclists. And I'm wondering if there's any plan to maybe cull some of the numbers of deer that are there.
I highly doubt that you would get, that would probably not be very popular with the community to start culling
I
animals.
don't know about that.
That would take a lot of justification to start culling animals. Yeah.
But they are a danger. And
Yeah.
I don't think you have enough natural predators along the American River.
Oh, they are there.
No,
There's more coming down.
I see coyotes. Very rare to see a mountain lion.
Yeah, the mountain lion are definitely in that canyon for sure. Because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. They probably have seen you.
Sure they do.
So this seems like a perfect segue to talk about Highway 50 corridor, the deer crossings, and what we're trying to do to make people more aware of that during the seasonal period.
Yeah, so the Fish and Game Commission for the county is really interested in the Highway 50 corridor, as well as myself and Caltrans. For Caltrans, it's a safety issue for them. So we've been doing some research on roadkills, Caltrans data and CHP data, and we've kind of mapped those out all along the Highway 50 corridor. And we've also looked at just natural drainages that the deer want to go through, and different landscape things like ponds on either side of the freeway. Like where would they want to cross and why? And so we've mapped all this out, and we've kind of identified some undercrossings that if money becomes available, then we know where we want to put them. But the Board of Supervisors is currently working with an agency. SACOG, yes. They're decommissioning the call boxes along Highway 50, and so we're going to utilize the solar panels on those call boxes to create flashing warning signs during periods where the deer are more actively crossing, which is mostly during the fall. You probably noticed that. You see a lot more roadkills in the fall when the bucks are in rut. So I think if we have just deer signs there, people become complacent and they don't really notice them. But we're hoping that maybe if we have flashing signs, that people will be more alert and aware, and we can kind of avoid that. But we're trying to do more. And there's been a lot of controversy with the undercrossing that currently resides in El Dorado Road. And I can tell you from monitoring it with cameras that it's getting highly utilized, which is pretty cool. So they are using that, and we don't see any indication of homeless camps inside of it or anything like that. So the deer are using that. So, yeah.
I have a question. I read somewhere, don't know if it's germane, but that deer cause more human deaths than any other animal.
As far as like collisions?
I'm sure it's related to...
Yeah, there's a lot. If you talk to the insurance companies too, that there's a lot. And I think there's a lot that's not reported. And then there's a lot of roadkill, like the deer don't always die on the road. Sometimes they run off and die. So, but yeah, it's high numbers for sure. Mm-hmm.
So in the event that a deer may be hit, may be injured, it ends up on somebody's property, what are the options for disposing of that?
It's kind of your responsibility to dispose of it if it lands on your property, unfortunately, yeah. If it's on a roadside, the county will pick up, the animal services will pick up carcasses on their roads that they maintain, and Caltrans picks up carcasses on.
It's really DOT.
Yeah,
Animal Services.
yeah, that's right, that's right. But if it's on your property, yeah, it's kind of your responsibility.
That's the suggestion. They usually try to get to the road and call DOT.
Yes.
Getting off the subject, you mentioned that cougar predation on the deer is being impacted by bears taking over the carcass. What's that doing to the bear population?
Well, the bear population is increasing as well. Our predators are very protected in California, and so we've definitely seen an increase in numbers, and also just their movement further down the hill. We have a lot of deer in the rescue area, or bear in the rescue area, and we've even had some travel down the Neck River Canyon and get into the Orangeville neighborhoods. So, and I'm sure you guys see all the news, even down south in Southern California, they're moving into really highly populated areas. So yeah, I think it's going to get worse. I think that they're helping. Yes. And a lot of these population numbers, people want numbers and throw out numbers, but it takes a lot of funding and also just scientific research to figure out populations. We're trying to be better with the technology being better, but we're still far behind really understanding what's happening on the landscape.
Just a word of caution. I was listening to a radio talk show the other day, and then there was this person who called in and said that you've got to not put out deer crossing signs along the freeways. You could put the deer crossing signs somewhere there is not so much traffic.
Yeah, and actually
that was a joke. I'm sorry.
The way that process works is that Caltrans gets a request from a concerned citizen or somebody from a local agency, and then they contact us to see if we agree with the sign should go up or not. So, yeah.
And make sure they go up
where
there's
they're
so much traffic.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Keep doing good things, okay? Don't give up. So we're on item 5, supervisor communications, and the first item here is the Dorado County Fair, which will start June 13th and run through Father's Day, June 16th, and Chris Whitaker on the Fair Board is here to share information on that.
Hi. Okay, well, it's that time of year again. It comes around pretty quick. So that will be, what's that, next week? That's the 2 weeks from now. Anyhow, fair's starting. It's going to be beautiful weather, which is always good. I was looking at the weather, and it says maybe up to 92, 93 on Sunday. Mid-80s the rest of the fair, so that's pretty good, especially for attendance. I'm just going to go over a few things that we're doing. As far as the schedule goes, the opening celebration starts at 11:50 on Thursday. That's at the front gates with the ribbon cutting, and they give some people a chance to talk, supervisors and city council, mayor, so they get to do their speeches for the opening of the fair. This year's animal exhibit is going to be a live stingray, interactive. So they're having a big pool of stingrays, and you can feed them and pet them. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. So you got your usual funnel cake eating contest every day. They have every day there's music all over the whole fairgrounds. It's every day, so there's never any lack of music entertainment. Some of it, one of them is an authentic Elvis experience, so for all you big Elvis fans out there. They have the Circus Imagination Show, that's on the main lawn. That's as you can imagine, just whatever the circus entails, that'll be out on the main lawn every day. Also, the Miss El Dorado County pageant will be on Thursday as well. The El Dorado Rose pageant, very exciting. Some of the music that night will be the Whoville, who is a band that's a British band, and then the Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac tribute band. The Whoville's the Who tribute band. So, I could go through all of this every day, but typically you're going to have great music. There's tons of events for kids. Every day there's tons of events. We're having the El Dorado County Fair, the American Idol, El Dorado American Idol. So if you know anybody that enjoys singing with great voice, tell them to come out on Saturday and Sunday of the fair at 4 o'clock. Big Wheels races every day, ages 4 to 7. That's always fun to watch. And the Junior Livestock Auction. If you're interested in buying any meat, any animals, that's on Saturday morning. Schedules it starts at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock for the buyers sign up. But come out and support your local 4-H and ag kids, and go in with some folks and buy some animals. Officer Smith is here. He's doing a bike rodeo every day out. Maybe you can stand up and explain a little bit of what that's about.
Yeah, so every single day of the fair, we're going to have a bike rodeo set up for the kids. I partnered with Samstown Cyclery, which is off of Motherlode. And Chris Cockrell is coming out there with his trailer. He's going to do help with bike tune-ups and making sure bicycles are roadworthy. We're going to be giving out free helmets to the kids in need. Inspecting their helmets that they have. If they're unserviceable, we're going to swap them out for a brand new one. And then they're going to have cone patterns. We're going to go over different riding methods and how to make proper turns, things like that. And it's going to be running throughout the entire fair. So all the cone patterns are going to be set up the entire time. And then we're going to run an official rodeo. I think it's 3 or 4 times every day. But we're going to have the booth open the entire time doing helmet fittings and everything else. And I've got probably at least 100 helmets that I'm bringing. So, and it's all grant funded. So.
Cool. Thank you. The plein air painting competition. We've been doing that for the last couple of years. We're really trying to push it this year. If you can paint, know somebody that paints landscapes, what have you. They give you an easel you can set up and paint the landscape of the fair, and then they have a competition to judging to see who had the best artwork, which it's turned out to be pretty good stuff. Some of the music for Saturday or for Friday, I don't know if anybody here has heard of the Island of Black and White. They're a local band. They're a lot of fun. They're playing Friday night along with another group called the Spasmatics. They do a lot of 80s and 90s cover band music. They're a lot of fun. Friday night is also the mutton busting for the little kids. So where they get to ride the sheep. It's kind of like a little rodeo for kids. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of events for kids. The kids' wheelbarrow race, the kids' funnel eating contest, the mutton busting, big wheel races. They have the Humps and Horns bull riding also on the night of the mutton busting. And then Saturday night, this is the big one, the 75th anniversary for the Studebaker wheelbarrow race. If you haven't been to the wheelbarrow race before, it's a lot of fun. Big obstacle course. Fill the wheelbarrows up full of ore, sand, and they have to run the obstacle course. And whoever finishes the fastest time and is able to keep the designated weight in their bag that they put in the wheelbarrow wins. I myself have never done it. I've never been in that type of shape, I don't think. But you watch these guys, and they have a senior division. They have the 18 to however up to 57 division, which another supervisor, Brian Beerkamp, runs every year. I believe he's 61 or 62. And he comes in the top 3 every year, but he has been doing it for, I think, over 20 years now. And then they have the local high schools race. But this is the 75th anniversary of that, so they're going to make a big deal about it. They're going to also have the Studebaker trucks out there, like a little car show out front. So if you're interested in some of those old-fashioned Studebakers, those will be there as well. And Sunday they have the Rubicon Rock Challenge, which on the track they are going to build a big Jeep course. So if you know anybody that has a Jeep that's interested in coming out, you can do the competition. They have it's a big obstacle course and then a wall climb. And last year was the first year we did that, and it was a really big success. A lot of people into four-wheeling that belong to the Rubicon clubs. They all came out, brought their rigs out there. It was great weather, and it was a lot of fun. So I have some free passes here. If anybody would like some, they could raise their hand. I can pass them out. And I also have these postcards. They have a $2 off general admission for up to 6 people. So if you're planning on bringing a group of people, you get $2 off of each one of your tickets. And if you have a local business you want to set these in, that'd be great too. I don't know if we can get rid of all of them here, but pass them out to whoever you think might want to go. And I have the free passes here. So Thursday the 13th is the opening at 10 o'clock. And the fair goes till midnight every night except for Sunday night, I believe. The Sunday night closes at 10 o'clock. But check out all the 4-H, all the livestock, all the animal exhibits. The horticulture room has all kinds of plants and wine competition winners, and then they have, there's just a lot to look at. If you really get there, get one of the schedules, walk around, take your time and look at, go into all the little rooms, you're going to find that there's a lot more to these fairs than that, with just the carnival and the buying of the junk and corn dog stuff. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot.
Is the complimentary tickets for the whole period of time or just one day?
Just one day each. So you can pick whichever day you want. And the same with this general admission one. It has a little bit of some of the music venues too on here, so you can check it out. But you can always go to the El Dorado County's website and El Dorado County Fair website and look and download the schedule, so you can pick which day you might want to do. If that's there's also senior. Oh man, I should have wrote this down. You'll find it. There's Teenagers Day and there's Senior Day. I believe Senior is Thursday. Seniors get in free, and Friday in the early afternoon, I believe the teenagers get in free as well. That's the one thing I was supposed to write down, but I didn't.
What's the age of seniors?
How old are you?
That was my question.
I don't know. They keep pushing Social Security back, so I'm thinking the age limit goes along with Social Security these days. So, 64, 5?
I don't qualify.
62? There we have it.
Well, that's early. Yeah, there's various levels of Social Security, but seniors are typically considered between 55 and 65, depending upon who the organization is. But
55, it seems pretty young these days to be a senior. Right? Yes, looking forward to seeing everybody there. If you, and just a side note, last year on VIP night, which is Wednesday night, they have some of the sponsors and stuff, and dignitaries over for a dinner is and they have a few of the rides open. Well, I proposed to my girlfriend on the Ferris wheel last year at the fair, and this year we're getting married at the fairgrounds on VIP night.
All right.
So that's a week from now. So she had to pick the busiest time of my year to add some more stuff for me to have to deal with, but I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a lot of fun. So, Popcorn and corn dog. Anybody wants some?
I have a quick question. With road work for Ray Lawyer, is there any impact on the parking for the fair?
Is there, excuse me?
Is there any impact on the parking at the fair because of the road work for Ray Lawyer where it's the overpass?
I don't, well, you know, it's the only way to, so no, I believe
It's
all.
typically just out to Ray Lawyer, right?
So we'll be going, you can still exit the fair left, and then you can, the freeway is still open right there at Ray Lawyer. But, and I believe that there's always parking at the county buildings up there.
Yeah.
That's gonna be open. Park and rides, there is a shuttle service from all the park and rides, and that is a free service. So if you want to park at the park and rides away from the fairgrounds, then the shuttles run for free. So, like I said, if there's any, will you raise your hand? Go ahead.
What's the website for the county fair?
ElDoradoCountyFair.org. And the schedule's on there, and all information is there. And on these flyers, it has the number for the office too. So if there's any more questions, the gals are more than happy to help with anything that you guys have, any questions that you have. So if there's any more questions, I can.
I'll take some of your calls. I would like to invite some seniors from the assisted living facility.
Yeah.
So it's Thursday, is senior day?
Yeah, you know what? It's just Thursday.
60 over.
60 and over? Okay.
You make up what a senior is.
60 and over on Thursday. So
You have
yes.
to transport though, they're not gonna transport.
Well, the facilities will transport.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, and the opening is at, what did I say?
11:30.
11 on Thursday. So, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be great weather. So I hope everybody is able to come out this year. So, free tickets. You want?
I'll take some of your dollars.
You want one of those?
Okay, I'm gonna let you do that, Chris, and we're gonna go ahead and move on.
Let me grab
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Certainly, thank you.
So I'm going to move quickly into a couple more items from the supervisor's comments. The county code enforcement priorities and plan. Some people know that county's not been the best in terms of keeping up with code enforcement. These are violations that are oftentimes structures that were built by somebody and they were never permitted. They can be health risks, they can be safety risks. So there's 850 of them that go back as far as 12 years ago. The Board of Supervisors decided to prioritize those delinquent violations and then send out notices to try to get compliance. It was talked about whether there should be just a grace period, essentially amnesty, and the answer was no, because that sent the wrong message to people who have not lived by the law, have not been law legal, but have since chosen to basically ignore the law. So these are going to be going after. So I hope nobody in this room gets those notices, but they are going to go out first of all by mail, reminding people of what their violation was, ask them to, if it hasn't been remedied, to remedy it, and start cleaning up some of that now that we've hired 3 additional code enforcement staff. So we've now got the staffing to put some teeth behind some of these things and get some of these long-standing issues cleaned up. And the primary focus is public health and safety issues. It's not somebody built a shed or has some kind of storage facility adjacent to a property line that's too close. That's not the kind of violations we're looking for. It's the significant ones relative to health and safety. The county grand jury. One of the things that came out recently, actually as it's dated May 23rd, is what they call a fair review. So I'm not sure if Chris has had a chance to look at that yet, but our county grand jury went through and reviewed the process between the fair board and El Dorado County Board of Supervisors. They're recommending updates, etc. So that's a connection that if you haven't read it, it's an interesting read, I think, in terms of their findings. There was also one recently came on Mental Health Services Act fund spending. So I'm going to report on those at a later date, but that leads me to the one on the agenda, which is the grand jury report relative to the sustainability findings and recommendations for rural fire districts. So I'm going to read you 3 quick findings and 2 recommendations, just so everybody has a better feel for what's going on, primarily in the more rural fire districts. Fire service sustainability is an issue confronting many rural counties in California. AB 8 did not account for future fire district demographic changes. It also did not account for the additional financial burden of using salaried firefighters in lieu of volunteers in rural fire districts. So this is a major change that's happened over many years. Chief Lilly is very aware of it, but some of our rural fire districts are really scraping to try to come up with enough funds to keep their paramedics employed and other things, so they're actually going out for special assessments. Third finding, there are significant ongoing discussions regarding county fire service sustainability encouraged by both the County Board of Supervisors and LAFCO. So the governmental agencies are encouraging consolidation where it makes sense, and we've only had one annexation and to date, after at least 6 or 7 years of it, and that's the annexation of Latrobe into our El Dorado Hills Fire Department. And that's had mixed results. It's not all favorable. The service has gone way up, but there is an added cost burden, and so there's a lot of things that go with these consolidations. Their recommendation is the Board of Supervisors, in conjunction with LAFCO and elected Fire Protection District Board members, should continue to explore options and models for countywide fire service sustainability. And then the Board of Supervisors should solicit assistance from the state to develop a solution to the issue, which I've already done. I've talked to our assemblyman about the need for some legislation to provide additional funding for the rural fire districts, because after ADA, property tax distribution is pretty much locked down, and it's a 2% growth per year, which doesn't keep up with funding for salaries and benefits and everything else. So ultimately, I think it's a legislative change that's necessary there. So if we get some progress on that, we'll report back. The last thing I wanted to talk about was TIM fee Zone 8. For those of you who are not familiar with the word TIM, or the acronym, it's a traffic impact mitigation fee. It's defined by the county based upon a listing that comes out with what's called the Capital Improvement Program requirements. And the CIP, Capital Improvement Program, is a 20-year forecast of when we need to have capacity and or safety improvements in some of the roadways. So Zone 8 is strictly El Dorado Hills. And in the past, we have had various planned improvements be removed from the CIP. Joe Harn and I have teamed up on this to identify what we think are the most critical areas to go back and address the need for either expanded roadways or adding shoulders or something. We know there's a lot of traffic accident situations out there. We know there's a lot of violations of various vehicle code laws, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have sufficient capacity for accident avoidance on our roads, then you have a better chance of staying out of an accident. So that's what that pursuit is about. And Officer Smith is here with us this evening, and he can talk a little bit more about what the CHP is doing. So with that, are there any questions on the supervisor's comments before we move to the progress reports? Yes.
On the increased staffing for the code enforcement, is there a projection that there'll be a defined need once that 850 delinquent that is sustainable, that the staff can be,
yes,
depending, invest in training them and
yes,
it's ongoing.
There's an ongoing need for more code enforcement. A lot of people aren't reporting it because, unfortunately, the county hasn't done a whole lot in the past, so people just give up. But with things like the cannabis initiation and other things, I think we're going to see even more demand for code enforcement, where people are violating the law and need to be addressed. They need to understand what the law is, and then ask them to correct it, voluntarily correct the problem. And if not, then we have to go to other things like fines and fees and whatever it takes. But yeah, so there's sustainability. In fact, the last thing I saw today is there's a listing now for each district. Tiffany Schmidt, who's our Director of Planning and Building, has redefined that organization. So there's a specific individual on the code enforcement team that's responsible for each district. So we have a name for District 1, an individual who's accountable for that, which we think is going to bring a lot more focus on the local issues that happen as opposed to code enforcement officers running all over the other county to address things. So I think that regional focus is really going to help, and particularly in El Dorado Hills. So we'll see how it goes.
John, are those 850 in El Dorado Hills, or is that countywide?
This is countywide. I don't think the majority of them are in El Dorado Hills. I think if you think about the more rural areas where people have buildings that are put up, you've got illegal trailers parked with hookups to electricity and probably water that are not legal, and who knows if there's septic systems in, and all kinds of things that have happened in the rural areas that need to be addressed. And again, it's a health and safety issue. It's not trying to take away somebody's right to privacy rights or something, or property rights. It's a health and public safety issue. So that's what we're trying to focus on. Not be punitive to people, but get the process fixed so that people understand what the law is. Okay, then what I'd like to do is move to the leadership team reports and start out with public safety and allow Chief Lowley. Do you want to introduce Officer Smith?
Yes, we're fortunate tonight to have Officer Smith, the CHP here. If you'd like, please. I know that everyone's concerned about various speed type issues. I know we have some residents from Crown, some concerns over Silva Valley and the accident that occurred there recently, and then some concerns over Bass Lake Road. So if you're willing, and then if you wouldn't mind, maybe just talk about if somebody has a complaint, what you would like to see and how you would kind of handle those.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I am Rob Smith. I'm the Community Resource Officer here for Placerville CHP, which covers all of West Slope, so 6,200 feet in elevation, everything west to the county line, up to Placer County, down to Amarillo County. I'm also the person that handles traffic complaints. The process that is preferred for those is if it is occurring right now, call our dispatch. Our non-emergency line, if you want to write it down, if you're able to write it down, is 916-861-1300. If it's a reckless driving type situation, then 911 is warranted. You're absolutely able to do that. If it's something that's ongoing, then call our office. You can, if you don't have anything to write, you can look it up online. It's very easy to find. The Placerville CHP. And anybody at the office will take a traffic complaint, put it into the traffic complaint system, and every one of those gets emailed to me automatically. I am a little behind in hitting some of my hotspots because about a little over a month ago, I just came back after 5 months of sitting on my butt after knee surgery. So I am 10 pounds less and working on it. So traffic complaints, that's not my only duty. I have a couple other duties. I do all investigations of crimes on state properties. And we have close to 20 state properties in our area that we cover, which we don't handle. There are a lot of crimes on those properties, but it keeps me a little bit busy. And then I do all the social media. So all the press releases, all the hashtags and everything else, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So that keeps me very, very busy. But I also try to get on all the local groups, like the watch pages, things like that. I'm on Nextdoor because I live just the other side of Bass Lake. So I get a lot of Dorado Hill stuff, and I try to not only respond to those, but see them and then go to those areas and try to handle those problems. Our area's been pretty busy. So, as you know, population of El Dorado County is not that large. But we've been busy, and then each year it seems like it's even worse. Collisions are going way up. We can't really identify any real trends. There aren't specific roads. There are some roads that have more than others, but there aren't any specific causes that we can really target. And that's what is a big issue for us. In 2017, in our entire area, we had 22 fatal accidents. In 2018, we had 25 with 27 deaths. As of today, we're at 18 with 20 deaths. Just 2019 already. At this point last year, we were half that. And it's getting out of control. So last year,
could that be cannabis related?
There are some that are, yes.
Does speed come into play in your thinking?
Yeah, so speed is there, but there's also a lot of DUI. There's a lot of unseatbelted people. The gentleman that died today was not wearing a seatbelt, and he probably would have survived had he been wearing a seatbelt. And that's the case with most of them.
That was on Bass Lake Road, correct?
No, we had another fatal today.
Okay, another one today. The one on Bass Lake was what, yesterday or the day before?
Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was a first officer.
So the one today was where in the county then?
That was just south of the confluence on 49.
Okay, all right.
By a couple miles.
Okay.
So for 2018, we had 2 fatals at El Dorado Hills. One was on 50, one was on Silva Valley at Timberline. Neither one of them were DUI. But out of all of our fatals last year, we had 10 DUIs. About half of those DUIs were drug DUIs. And most of them were marijuana. There were a couple that were others like that. And in 2018, 5 of them were confirmed as not being seatbelt. This year so far, we have 18 crashes. 6 so far have been confirmed DUIs and 1 is a possible. 9 of them were not using safety equipment. So that lumps in 1 person without a helmet. But 8 of our fatals were undaunted victims. There's no excuse for that. But it's been a really bad year. There was a period where we had 3 fatals in a 23-hour period. And we've had 3 fatals in the last 4 days. We had one on Thursday, just up off of Deer Valley. I handled that one. We had one on Saturday on Bass Lake, which I can talk about if you'd like. I know there's a lot of people very concerned about that one. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say, because we have non-releasable evidence at this point that proves that they were all riding recklessly prior to. There's a group of motorcyclists. They crossed the double yellow line to pass another vehicle just north of Madera, which is that last little turnoff before the 25-mile-an-hour curve. And as they were coming back, that's when they lost control on the curve, slid across the hip of another vehicle. So that was not a curve issue, it was a rider issue. And that's important to know. So looking through that intersection, I went through there again today. There's a 40-mile-an-hour sign that's about 100 yards or so south of Madera as you're going north. There's no more 40-mile-an-hour signs until past the curve. As you're coming into the curve, you have 2 very large 25-mile-an-hour signs that show a right angle, and then you have arrows, yellow and black arrows that go through the curve. You have the same thing coming back the other way. It sneaks up on people that are not paying attention. Every single one of these crashes that we get in that area is preventable. Every single fatal we've had in the last 2 years has been preventable. And that's why we call them collisions and not accidents. Is because they're not accidents. Everything that happened could have been prevented had somebody been driving the way that they're supposed to. And that's the thing that we're trying to impress upon people the most. We have a lot of distracted driving. It's very, very hard to prove. I think we would have a lot more fatals if it weren't for vehicle safety measures. I think that really accounts for why we don't have as many traffic fatalities. It's because of airbags and seatbelts and the way vehicles are engineered. So going back to traffic complaints, because I know that's a big thing. I'm trying to catch up on some. I heard there was some misinformation about how those were handled. Know that they are handled as quickly as possible. I don't believe in standing up here and making up stories, so the truth of the matter is when we can get out there, we get out there. If I go out to a roadway and I sit there for an hour and I see 3 cars, that's not a good use of my time. Now, I will try my best to see what I can see, and I've worked with the county. Daryl Brown, the traffic superintendent, he goes on ride-alongs with me once a quarter. We go to hot spots, we figure out if there's anything the county can do to change an area, and we work together. If I sit on the road in a black and white, people don't speak, right? But I can't sit on all your streets every day.
It would help.
It would, absolutely. Yeah.
There's no room for you on Silver Valley. I have
in some spots.
Law enforcement so many times, not only the Passenger office.
Yeah.
Because it's closed every so often, so I end up with Sacramento, and there is no space for you guys to actually take a look at how bad it is.
Right. There are a lot of roads that we have nowhere where we can sit. One of those roads is, say, Oxford Road in Cameron Park. I don't have anywhere I can safely sit on the side of the road. There might be 2 spots, but even that's tight. I got to have my head on a swivel. So it's a lot of driving back and forth. And and we have moving radar. We can get your speed on the radar while we're driving. So we do that. But I've also had streets that if I can't see a problem because I'm in the black and white, then what I'll do is I'll talk to the county and say, hey, we get a lot of complaints on the street. I've gone out there. I don't really see anything. We had this on Brisbane Circle.
You're welcome to park at Entrada gates, and you see a lot of things.
We write a lot of tickets at Dorado. A lot.
Well, there is a lot of speeding going on there.
We write a lot of speeding. I've written a lot of speeding
for
tickets.
you to catch bad guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the law enforcement going to do anything about it? Whose problem is
Well,
this?
you assume that we don't. We write a lot of tickets out there. A lot.
Can you reduce the speed?
That's
so
not
everybody
up to...
drives 45 instead of 60 to 90?
Right, so it's not up to us to regulate the speed
Yeah, I
limit.
know. I have been thrown back and forth with the DOT and you guys.
Right, and they just
So who's
completed...
responsible?
They just completed a recent traffic and engineering survey that justified a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. That was just approved by the Traffic Advisory Committee, I believe, in the fall, and I'm a voting member on that committee. 45 is reasonable when school's not in session.
No, it's really not. We are 30 feet away from Silver Valley with our backyard, 40 feet away with our bedroom.
Right.
Can you even imagine how much noise the speeding generates?
Oh, I'm sure that there's a lot of noise, but there's also a lot of vehicles that like to do those little modifications. To
Yeah, we
make
don't
themselves
want those.
louder.
Please go and
Right.
get those people. Because they are the ones that are really messing things up.
True.
Yes, no, I'm here.
And that also adds to the perception of speed as well, the sound, or the sound of acceleration. Where you're at in Entrada is a common acceleration point on the roadway. They're accelerating.
Putting stop signs? Maybe?
That is not CHP. We do
Who
it
is
in
that?
enforcement.
So
That's
who's that?
county DOT. But stop signs have to be warranted
They keep referring me back to you.
for
Back and
enforcement.
forth.
So we do enforcement, and we're on Silver Valley quite a bit. We write tickets out there a lot.
And I call you. What
We also work the school zones quite a bit as well. And just so you all know, I'll be out there in front of Silver Valley tomorrow because it's one of the last days of school.
What time?
Coming in about 7:45.
There you go.
Well, then you maybe would notice that the double whammy that we are getting with people that is dropping the kids onto the school.
Yes.
When they get out on Silver Valley, they make a U. There is a line of cars all the way to the intersection where the traffic light is, all the way to the school. That's a solid chunk of cars.
Yes.
And they go past our backyard, not once, but twice.
Right.
It's mind-boggling how this could come into play in the first place.
So more stop signs like you had recommended would cause more of that backup.
No, because we could have a left turn at Entrada, which we should have as residents. It's our gate. It's not the county's gate.
Right. I get that. Okay. I don't have anything to do with that.
No, we would have to go back and forth.
I understand your anger, but let me ask you something. Other than calling us and calling the county, what have you as citizens done in your sphere of influence? Have you spoken to your neighbors?
Yes.
About driving habits? Because that is huge.
Not about
And that I don't think
Not
happens
about-
enough as a community.
Well, the thing of the matter is that what I really would wish for, we need to have more facts about the traffic on Silver Valley. Who is it that would do a traffic study? And I don't mean that the rubbery thing that's in the road.
They just did one.
Average speed,
Yes.
average noise.
Yes.
Where can I get my hands
They
on
have
that?
traffic counts, average speeds, all of that. If you contact the county, you can get a copy of
We
that.
have contacted the county and they refer to you. Maybe there is a
They-
misconception on what the
On
county.
enforcement, it's a CHP.
Yes.
Relative to the traffic analysis and the recommendations that come out of DOT, that's DOT. And that, the TAC meetings he referred to is the way that the county, the sheriff's office, CHP all get together and talk about what are the possible solutions.
Is that material public?
It is on, the traffic says online, I was looking at today, 2018 is the last.
Because when I was looking,
And so
it was
about
pretty much only a representation of how many cars are going by.
Yeah.
But really, what needs to be done is so much more of that, so that we would know where's the cars coming from.
Well, they do speed surveys as a primary thing to determine if there's a justifiable reason to change the speed limit, which is what most people are asking for. But when you use the rule of 85%, which is part of the vehicle code, if anything, what it suggests is a higher speed can be posted because people are traveling at higher speeds, which kind of is counterintuitive to me, but that's the way the law is written. So
That's the law.
if people are speeding, we want to increase the speed limit to allow them to speed more. That's kind of the motivation in the
Well, see,
vehicle.
that's really a scare tactic for me. That if I complain enough, you will increase the speed limit to 65 miles an hour.
No.
And the law also says there is a noise ordinance.
I understand the noise ordinance, so
That's from my backyard.
this is the actual sound level?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so we're getting off track, but I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss this personally. And have a
Please
representative from DOT there, because we do have county standards. But unfortunately, again, the noise for these tuned-up vehicles has got to be a CHP enforcement. The county can't enforce that. The worst, in my opinion, are the motorcycles, the Harley Davidsons that have the tuning goes about 120 dB.
Yes,
But
they
they're
are.
still out there on the road for some reason.
Right, and they're
They are few.
so one of the biggest issues is rumors and misconception of law and what we're able to do legally with a lot of things. Noise for vehicles is very hard to enforce. Because if we don't have a decibel meter held at a certain angle and all that, now if we can show that they've done modifications, we can cite them for that, but citing them for noise is another story and it's much more difficult.
And something else needs to happen.
Surveillance. You got to
You have to be
surveil
the
these
tunnel.
Why can't that be done at the shops where they're doing it, like the motorcycle shops?
Because they sign things saying that this might be illegal, but we're going to install it knowing that it's illegal. Just, I mean, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but how many of you have tinted windows on your front windows? You had a shop that put it in, it's illegal, you can't have
Well, I'd
any
be
tint.
willing to stand at a motorcycle shop and arrest them as they drive away. I would totally be willing to.
Well, it's not an arrestable offense.
Well, I mean, whatever, find them, send them back in, say, oh, you're over the limit.
Right.
I truly would be willing to do that.
So,
As they drive away,
and that's where we get to manpower and ability to do some of those things. The speed on Silva Valley, I am happy to tell you exactly how you can get that speed survey.
Okay.
Exactly. And it, like, no fail, you should be able to get it because it's public record.
So we can work with you on it, but I don't want to dwell only on Silva Valley. I want to talk about Green Valley Road and some of the other situations we have. So the Green Valley Road situation, obviously that has a huge noise factor. There was 3 deaths in the last 3-year period on Green Valley Road. What can you help us understand relative to what can be done to better that situation in El Dorado Hills and the Green Valley Road section?
Right, so with Green Valley, the deaths that we had were not over here, fortunately.
Okay.
Most of them were Placerville side, past the turnoff, past Lotus.
Okay.
The other side, Missouri Flat, Mulberry, Indian Creek. There was one, I believe, up here that was DUI related, that was in rescue. And then we did have one that was in front of rescue school. Not DUI related, not speed
Okay,
related.
let me get specific. The Lockway is a known problem area.
Yes.
People coming down the hill, people trying to turn left, not paying attention, rear-end collisions, near-rear-end collisions. Fortunately, there has been no fatalities, but I keep hearing all the time about that situation. So I don't know what the residents can do to try to help. We can call your office and, basically let you know that there's speeding going on. There was a near-miss accident or whatever, but how do we really affect change with what's going on? I mean, that's the tough part.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's community.
Okay.
Nobody wants to talk to a neighbor anymore. Nobody wants to hold their family accountable. If we stop somebody and write them a ticket, we get the phone call at the office and saying, my kid didn't do anything wrong. We had a lady screaming at us at the front counter today because we found her daughter at fault for a collision that happened in a completely different place than her daughter told her it was. And she had no actual facts. The daughter lied to her, then they take their kids to work and they come and they scream at us. That doesn't stop us from doing our job, don't get me wrong. But nobody's having those conversations anymore. We are ramping up our educational efforts. We're teaching at least one Start Smart class every month. That's a new driver teenager class. So we're doing as much outreach as we can, but it's just everybody's in a rush now. If a black and white's there, they do slow down. Yeah, but we can't be at every spot all the time. I think, what is it, 1,000 miles of roadway or something around here? A little covered by typically 5 CHP officers at any given time. 1,000 miles of roadway.
What are the laws for video surveillance? I mean, we have a lot of crime, and the police are always asking, well, we have video surveillance. With the solar panels and the other things, we always see these lights. You're going at this speed, okay, and then it flashes if you're going over. And it would be cheap, I think, to put a camera there and take pictures. How enforceable is that?
It's not.
The laws? Okay.
It's not. It's illegal for speed cameras. For at least for us. I mean, if you live in Auburn Lakes Trails, they do it, but it's an HOA violation, not a legal violation. We can't use speed cameras. That's illegal. Those flashing signs are actually really expensive. I think the last figure I heard was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $15,000-$16,000 just to put one in, and then you have the regular maintenance. So that we're talking money. It has to come from somewhere.
Right. So that if neighbors want to do that on their own, they can buy one of those cameras and put it out there.
So if you have a camera and you send me a picture of or a video of somebody running a red light, I can't legally do anything about it because I wasn't physically there to see it. That's the way the law is. It's to protect you, honestly, because anybody, and you see it all the time, and I just dealt with it. Somebody was saying something about one of our officers recently on Facebook, saying they were doing something and they actually weren't even doing it. They were making up a story. It happens all the time. Somebody's mad, they call in somebody else, and we get the possible DUI drivers, and then as soon as you stop them, they say, oh, it must have been this guy that was messing with me back down the road. Turns out, yeah, it's that guy that called them in. So we have that all the time, because those things are in place to protect you. Because, yes, you do see that violation, and it does aggravate you, and it aggravates me too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I hate the way that some people are driving around here. It really bothers me, and every single fatal that we have to take really bothers all of us, because we have that responsibility that we feel to the community, and have another death really bothers us. You have a question, sir?
I think as far as Silver Valley is concerned, you're overlooking the elephant in the room, and that is the schools that don't provide school buses, which means that the parents have to come, and this is what causes all of that traffic. I think the communities that are having a problem with that traffic should become active on the school boards and change and have the schools pay for buses and enforce the fact that kids have to be on a bus instead of having parents come. I picked up my granddaughters. That's one of the most dangerous things in the world to get there, and who's fighting over spots, who's cursing who. It's ludicrous, okay? And I know you have no control over that. The county has no control over the schools. They're an entity on their own, and you have to get in touch with, become active on the school boards and change that. You know, and the other thing I want to mention, you have Latrati, you can't make a left. We're on White Rock, and we were just told that when this JPA comes down, they are not going to allow left-hand turns across White Rock from Bailey Circle and from one other neighborhood. And they're saying, oh, well, the people in the Latrati are getting used to that. Well, obviously they're not. They're not, and this is something that hasn't been done yet. And we're being told, oh, don't worry about it, because people will get accustomed to it. And what they'll have to do then is make a right-hand turn, go all the way to Four Seasons where the traffic light is, and make a U-turn, which, if they don't put a divider in, these people are just gonna make a left-hand turn anyway. So,
Which they do in the trail, some of them.
Yeah.
I haven't, but,
There is,
because I don't have that early.
you know, but you have to get onto your school board. If you don't do that,
I will say that the school boards, they do have transportation. They have, the high school district has transportation, and you know my kids will take a bus. Well, one graduated now, but the younger daughter takes a bus home from Ponderosa, and I know that they do have buses at Oak Ridge, and they have Buckeye has buses as well, and they park some of them over in Campbell
I think
Park.
all the schools have buses, and bus
Yeah.
ridership is
but
like
they don't have
30%
enough.
of
They
the
have
buses.
one bus.
Because you
okay.
can't force parents to put kids on the bus.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Well, then they have to change those
Yeah, you
regulations.
pay for it, yeah. You do pay for it as a parent, you pay for that plan. And some of these schools do have one bus, some of them have multiple buses, but like as John was saying, the participation rate's really low, and the transportation service is terribly expensive. And you know, like any organization, school districts are looking to save money.
But you
You know,
can't have, you know, what the saying is, you can't have your cake and eat it. You're gonna have 1 million cars on that street.
And you do at every single school.
All right.
Everything. I mean, it's legitimate.
And I was shocked the other day to see the number of children walking, which I think is great. All right, I don't know where they're going, whether they're going into the library and waiting for their parents.
That's
to
another
pick them up at the
conversation.
library.
That's
But,
So,
I guess
you're
it's
absolutely
tremendous
right.
kids walking.
A large number of my traffic complaints in this area are school related. But having school-age children myself, it's not cool to ride the bus anymore.
It's too bad.
And a lot of parents don't force their kids to do so. I do. My kids ride the bus because we've got jobs. They have to ride the bus. You know what? That's just the way it is. And so it's really hard for them to justify a cost of putting out more buses if nobody's going to ride. But you're absolutely right with the traffic. And all the kids walking, they're walking right up Claremont and going where all their parents are stopping in the non-stopping zone. That's one of my traffic complaints I deal with all the time. So there are things that we can do, are doing. Just because you don't maybe not see us when you're out doesn't mean we're not there. El Dorado Hills does take a lot of our attention, and we usually have at least one, most likely 2 officers working El Dorado Hills area at any given time, and that's actually a lot for the area that we do cover. So there's one on the north side of 50, one on the south side of 50.
Yeah, you had some questions on Crown Village you want to share, so we can hear.
I'd like to talk to you more personally about Crown Village because it's a more recent thing that I've become aware of, and cut-throughs, and if it's private property or not. If it's a private roadway that they're on, I can't do anything about that. But if it's public, then I'd like to talk to you about that and see if we can't do something.
It's a fire break, it's a public access.
Okay. But even then, if there's no speed limit or anything like that, it's more of, if they're driving recklessly, that's really the only code section I can enforce.
Yeah.
But to be reckless, it has to be more than just going fast.
They make
If that makes
sudden
sense.
U-turns at the bottom of our driveway, yeah.
Yeah, so there has to be there's a lot that goes into
We
it.
have footage.
And again,
Share that with you.
it's real easy to say sometimes, like, I have this going on, you need to do something about it, but we have rules that we have to play by, and they are a lot more
Is
stringent.
this county who has got those rules? Is
No,
it
it's
the-
state.
In the entire state?
Statewide, we have rules that we have to play by as officers of the law.
Yeah.
And if we don't, you see us up on the news and
How come in the Los Angeles area, the residential areas only have 35 miles per hour?
35?
35, yes.
I can't speak to that. I haven't worked
So
I
I
have
think
worked
in
other.
Several County, that is a little disrespectful, actually,
They
to
have
their
to,
residents.
they have to be able to, it's not the county. It's the law, it's state law that they have to abide by. Now, LA is a lot more dense. I'm from Southern California, so I know Southern California is very, very dense. But the type of roadway, Silva Valley, right where you're at, is nice and wide, 2 lanes in each direction. People are going to go fast.
It's only 30 feet
feet away from my backyard. Can you
But
hear
you
that?
have a wall, and the people set the speed limit. That's the way the law works. And you're more, like I said, I will help you get that traffic survey that you can look at, and but we have to work within the rules, and they do. And I will say this, I've worked in many areas of this state. I've been all over the state, and this county DOT is, I'm going to venture to say, the best one that I've worked with as far as engineering and traffic surveys and making sure that we have everything we need so that when we do write that ticket, we can win that in court.
But this county is about the law when it comes to noise ordinance standards. Obviously, that's state.
So Rob, when you speak to Francisco
and our
Drive,
CCNRs.
because Francisco Drive has got 2 schools on it. I hear complaints all the time about speeding in and around those schools and stuff. There's stop signs that are being run all the time. Do you write tickets out in that area? Is there anything the public can do to try to help you?
Be patient.
Well, people take photographs of license plates, and I'm not sure that helps or not.
So what ends up happening when I get photographs and those traffic complaints with specific vehicles is, if it's a recurring thing, it's the same person that's going through every single day at this time, I'm going to try and be there at that time so that I can catch them. If that's not the case, and it's just an incidental thing, like the principal at Silva Valley will send me a plate number and say, this person went through the crossing guard today, almost hit the crossing guard. I can't cite them for that, but I draft a letter and they send an official letter from the Highway Patrol saying that they were observed doing these violations. Further violations can result in citations or whatnot. But it's basically a warning letter. But that's the most I can do legally for an infraction.
Yeah. I know you can't, if you don't observe it, you can't ticket them or fine them. But if someone these people set up a camera outside Entrada entrance, and they show you visual evidence that cars are doing California stops or no stops, and they have a license plate, if they send it to you and you observe it on their video, can you actually send letters to people saying, hey, you were caught running?
I can send letters, yes. I can't send citations.
I understand it, but I get a letter from you saying, shit, I was observed doing something I shouldn't be doing. At least have a second thought the next time I go through that intersection.
Right, and that's what we hope for.
Okay.
Is, hey, people are watching you.
Yeah.
Being discourteous in your own neighborhood. And that's really what this is this is your own neighbors. These aren't people passing through. This is your own neighbors that are flying up and down Silva Valley.
I'm not sure you're right on that one, because, and the reason I'm thinking that is that Silva Valley is taking a boatload of traffic out of Green Valley and funneling all the way to 50. It is like inviting the devil into your backyard.
I'm telling you, based upon the complaints I get, the letters I write, the people I stop, they're all locals. Most of our fatalities, like I brought our worksheet here. In 2018, out of 27 people that died in our county in traffic-related matters, 23 of them were from El Dorado County, and 20 of them were within 10 miles of their own house.
In fact, a large number of the infractions around the schools are parents or students, if it's Oak Ridge High School, that are violating the law. I mean, it's not people from outside the area. It really is people local.
Right.
So it's how does the community make a difference in letting people know we're tired of it. They have to be law-abiding citizens like everybody else, and we have limited resources to enforce it. But we have to try to
without enforcement, I don't think anything would happen.
Well, but that's the thing is, there is enforcement. There's actually a lot of it. But if we're not there, they're just going to do it again. They're just going to keep doing it unless we're sitting there, and we can't sit there all the time. I can go like with Claremont right there in front of the high school where it's no stopping all through
down
there.
the street here. Yeah.
I've gone through there several times writing tickets, chasing people out. They're good for a day, and then they're right back doing the same thing because they're going to take the chance. Because there's no black and white sitting there, and that black and white can't sit there every day. I wish it could. I wish we had a lot more people. That's just, applications to the Highway Patrol right now are down about 60%. And And that's really law enforcement.
Nobody wants to get checked.
I'd like to make a warning to people, if you're talking about putting up surveillance equipment or whatever, don't put it in the county right of way. It needs to be on private property. It's put on the county right of way. It will be removed by DOT. We've had that incident where people think they can use the light standards in the county right of way to mount equipment. You cannot. That's illegal. It has to be on private property. So be careful if you're going to put up surveillance cameras. That's the warning.
And I can highly recommend dash cams, as long as they're not in your field of view. So you can't mount them on your windshield, that's illegal, unless it's down at the bottom corners. But we've used dash cams in instances such as major collisions, DUIs, things like that have come in. So you had some.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do live north of Green Valley. We've seen, over time, the California stops. Now people just drive right through, don't even touch their brakes. But I've also seen a newer trend of people are turning red lights into stop signs. And then they drive through the red light. But like you said, to speak up, I did see someone that I knew, and I got up to him at the next light, and he was, thought someone was going to have an argument, and then he saw it was someone he knew. He apologized, said he'd never do it again. So, what you're saying,
it's helpful.
See something, say something.
Talk to your family, talk to your friends. We are at a time right now where there's so much disregard for human life on the roadways, and we're trying our best, but cell phones, all kinds of distractions while they're driving. Like people I'm in my bubble, right? And if I see a black and white, I'm going to slow down. As soon as they pass by us, they speed back up again. That's just the way it is. And so we have to have those hard conversations with our friends and family. It's very difficult to do. I've had those conversations with friends and family. And here comes the cop with the conversation, telling me what to do again. No, I care. I really care about everybody in here. That's why I'm a community officer, is because I really like to do it. I like to come out and talk to people.
Well, this is a lot of disrespect for law enforcement, with all the national news and everything, and that's why a lot of your applications are down. People, guys don't want to get in that line of work, unfortunately.
But I will say, if you do call these guys, if you have a problem with your neighbor, you talk. They will come out, and they will park there, and I've seen them. And there are some who live in our neighborhood, they won't do it, but they'll let somebody else to come out because they don't want to ticket their neighbors. But
right, and
but these guys can come out. They will come out. They will sit at the bottom of my street, and they will, they can't be there all day.
I've sat in my own neighborhood because that's where the complaints were coming from, and I've ticketed people from my own neighborhood. And it stinks, but it's business, and it's, trying to change behavior. All we have to change behavior is education and citations. And we don't make any money from any citation we write. The Highway Patrol gets $0. So it's about safety for us. Yes, sir.
I'd like to tell this audience that the JPA Connected will probably be coming down in August to show their plans on how they're going to come across county line from Folsom and come up White Rock and end at Silver Valley. And that's going to be 2-lane, some portions of 4-lane road. And I think we have to take very, very close attention to what they're going to do. And the county has to pay very close attention to what they do, because we are paying for the improvements, not just the connector. And to allow them to do anything that they want is not going to benefit anyone here.
Actually, the JPA will be funding the road segment using federal funds between the Sacramento County line, and basically the improvements have to be made down to Latrobe Road. From Latrobe Road to Silver Valley Parkway is the county CIP must be funded project. But that connection right at the El Dorado County, Sacramento County line is going to be funded through the JPA.
Because from what I understand, the county had to put up money from the county line to Latrobe. That's county money. They had to put county money into that. And if we're spending county money, we better make sure we're using it for a good purpose.
Not for the connector purposes. So I'd like to talk to you about that. We'll go through it. That's not my understanding.
I remember at least $5,000 a year to the JPA for that little piece of road.
Well, there's membership requirements for the JP. If that's what you're talking about, that's different than
Oh,
money
still
going into
all
road
money.
improvements. Okay, so we'll talk about that separately. So, we need to move on, but any final questions for Rob?
Thank you.
Yeah, to wrap up just real quick, I welcome the traffic information. The traffic, I hate to call them complaints because I don't want to call you a complainer. I welcome the information of hot spots because it really is about working with the community. You are our eyes out there because, like I said, they're not going to do it if the black and white's there, but we can't always be there. So, but the thing I'm going to ask of you is when you do call these in, get us as much information as you can. Narrow down the times if possible. I get complaints sometimes that just say, all day. Okay, I'll go out there and I'll see one, maybe two cars in an hour. And I can't justify that. I can't justify myself being out
I
there.
have some times for you to say them.
Well, Silver Valley is all day. That legitimately is all day.
Well, not only all day, all night.
All
Then
night.
there's certain times a day that are heavier than others, and I do agree with you. Silver Valley is a problem.
It's a big.
And it does get a lot of our attention, believe it or not. So I myself have written a lot of tickets there. I have directed other beat units to go out there because of the complaints that do come in, and because we know it's a problem, it's a hot spot. And fortunately, we have only had one fatal on Silver Valley in the last few years, which is a good thing.
There's
There
a
are
lot of
crashes.
accidents going on.
Right.
Most of them, those little bumps in somebody's.
Well, and while there's a lot of accidents going on there's a lot of other hot spots in this county. In 2016, we had 864 reported accidents in the county, right, that CHP took. We had 999 last year. That's unacceptable. And that's only counting the reports that we took. There's a lot that somebody hits a deer and they don't report it, or they collide with somebody else and they exchange information. That doesn't come to us. That doesn't go to the county. We never know about it. On that subject, real fast, and I know I've gone a long time. Thank you. The deer thing. If you do hit a deer and it's dead and it's in the road, give us a call. Otherwise, you don't have to report it to us. So just let us know that it's on the side of the road, but you don't need a traffic collision report. You're not required to by law. You just call your insurance and let them know I hit a deer. Make sure the deer was running. If the deer was standing still, it's your fault. If the deer is still alive, it's very important that we know. We will come out and we will dispatch it. Sierra Wildlife will not touch an adult deer. Maybe fawns, sometimes. But if that deer doesn't, if it's got broken legs or whatever, it's getting dispatched. That's how it goes. So just at least let us know where it's at, but you don't need a collision report for it. Okay.
Thanks again, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have a representative from the Sheriff's Department. Anything you want to add, Mike, with the fire season coming up?
No, great job though. Thanks for
All right.
all the discussion.
Very good. So let's just move down the line and some of the leaders can give the report.
Okay, APAC, our meeting in June is actually a week early. It's on Wednesday, so it's 2 days away. We'll be meeting not here at the CST Pavilion. We'll be working over at the fire station on Wilson Boulevard. We have a sort of a short agenda. We had anticipated a couple projects coming through, and there's more coming that aren't really ready for the public yet. They haven't really applied for the county, but we know there are a lot more coming. So on Wednesday this week, we'll be talking about the subcommittee report we heard last month for the El Dorado Hills Wholesome Self-Storage on Green Valley Road at Shadowfax. Our subcommittee recommends additional support of the project. We did send those comments into the county, and we heard back from the county that they didn't want those comments right now. So we are going to have enough folks, voting members of APAC, for a quorum where we can do a vote. So we'll have doing a vote on that to either accept or deny the recommendation of the subcommittee. The other items on our agenda, there's just an updated notification, no review yet. It's a proposed assisted living facility on Sophia Parkway, right above the El Dorado Hills Wholesome Self-Storage. It's a big project. It's 21 square feet on 3.6 acres of land. 155 beds on 3 floors. So it's a big project. That'll be coming up. It'll be going through the approvals project. Another thing that we're just going to give an update on, it's a very small project, but we're excited as an example of some old projects that were approved a long time ago that are coming back and being revisited, modified a little bit. This one's actually technically in Cameron Park on Woodley Lane, but it's right above El Dorado Hills, right on the border, and it's going to be next to another project of 84 homes that will connect down through the Woodridge subdivision. But it's Sierra Sunrise. It's only 7 homes with an 8 lot that's rather large, and that'll actually be at the Planning Commission later, I believe, in June, at the end of June. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that a little bit, just to let people know as an example of, hey, here's a project that's approved. I don't have the year on here, but I know that I have the original diagram from 1988. That's when the tentative map was originally drawn. So it's changed substantially, but it's just a project that's, it takes forever to get going, and it's an example of how things take a while to get done. Then we have a couple minor updates for some area projects. The issue with Country Club Drive alignment and the eminent domain process that was started, we talked about a little bit last month, has been resolved. Supervisor Heidel shared that with us at the May community council meeting. And then we have a few, just some photos of some area projects that are approved. They're in construction, just to show residents what it looks like right now, how far along they are in their progress. And so, and again, that's at the fire station this Wednesday, 7 p.m.
I do have one go back. We have a representative from the Sheriff's Department here I failed to recognize, so my apologies for that.
Okay,
I didn't see you in the uniform or wearing a badge there. I just didn't see it, but yeah, please.
Hi, Detective Morton. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I'm assigned to Property Crimes Division, specifically El Dorado Hills area. So I just wanted to bring up a couple stats that we have for El Dorado Hills. In the week of 5/23 through 5/29, looks like we had a total of 6 reports taken by deputies. The majority of which include petty thefts, burglary, disorderly conduct, and information report. The week prior, 5/16 through 5/22, a total of 15 reports taken in El Dorado Hills. Those included petty thefts, vehicle burglaries, a couple of 5150s, and disorderly conducts. So that's kind of what we've seen the past 2 weeks. I did want to bring up a case I was working not last week, but the week prior. We had a string of residential burglaries over here on Valley View, La Sierra, condominium townhomes. Particularly disturbing because they were in the middle of the night. The 3 burglaries that occurred, all 3 of the homeowners and the victims were inside their homes when this occurred. One of the burglaries, the suspect took off the screen on the front window, opened the window, went inside, continued to take items. This is all when homeowners were asleep. So the other 2 were similar. Both of those, however, the homeowners left either left their sliding glass door open, cracked it for fresh air, or had their slider open and their screen closed. So the good news on that, though, is after spending my whole week in Elk Grove and North Highlands, writing a couple search warrants, I know who did it. We recovered probably about 90% of the stolen property that was taken. So that's good news there. But just wanted to bring that up because I just want to remind everybody, make sure your doors are locked, make sure your windows are locked, making sure you're talking to your neighbors, just stay alert on that stuff. And if anybody does put up any kind of traffic cameras, let me know. I'm always trying to look for video surveillance. So any questions for me?
Do they know the people? Do they know the burglary victims?
No, he's out of Elk Grove. He's
So he just came up and randomly
picked El Dorado Hills. He came up here. He had some similar cases going on in Folsom. That's how I learned who he was with the help of Folsom PD. So, but yeah, he's not from El Dorado Hills. He's from Elk Grove is where he lived, and then before that, North Sac.
So that was a Section 8 housing?
No, it was the one right above that. So they're like I think they're townhomes. Yeah.
Was he held or was he released on?
He was in custody for a short time. He did bail, but he now has two no bail warrants out for him right now. So he'll get picked up, and then hopefully he'll be here for a while longer. So these cases, they take time. Ultimately I have to. I know who it is, but I have to get an interview on him, and from there I then send my case to the district attorney. I've already reviewed it with the DA. They've looked at it. They're like, it's good. We'll prosecute. We just need to get in custody. But it's not going to be long. Like I said, he's got two no bail warrants out for him. Folsom's actively looking for him too, because again, a similar case. So I've been working with my partners in Folsom PD on this. So.
How's this new bail law going to affect this? To me, it seems like these guys get bail, but there's a penalty to it.
Great question.
And it's now, instead of them paying for it, it's going to be the taxpayers who are going to pay for it.
Sure. Yeah. So funny you brought that up. So this guy in particular, right? He does one of these similar burglaries in Folsom, nighttime burglary. I believe it was on the 5th of May. He stole a cell phone. Folsom PD pinged the fellow back to wherever he landed in Elk Grove. They then go serve a search warrant. They hook him up because they find all his property. So they hook him up, take him to Sac, Maine. He's in jail for a few days. Boom, he bails out. And within that time that he bails out is when the time frame our burglaries up here occurred. So he got out and right back to it. Now this time in El Dorado Hills. So had he not been released on bail, those burglaries would have never happened. Luckily, thank God, no one was hurt in this, especially given the circumstances of these cases. Luckily, no one was hurt. But yeah, that's and I don't know how this is gonna look. Whenever this new bail law takes effect, I think it's gonna. I don't know. Hold on. It's gonna be weird.
If he had a weapon present when he went into the homes? Because that's the part I don't know. How much do you have to try to defend yourself if somebody's trying to steal something?
Well, I said those I don't know, right? Because luckily, he was never confronted by anyone. So I did talk to the DA, and these crimes are considered violent felonies because of the fact that the victims were home during the
It's like a home invasion almost, except they open front.
Exactly. So he's looking at some serious charges, but other counties also have, been running around doing this. So, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for the heads up. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's continue the string. I think we're up to Richard.
John, I'm going to really abbreviate mine. You had been noted here, and I think, about suggestions that are coming to you as a result of the various outreaches. And I guess you might make the observation from when you started as supervisor to now, how has that flow been? How have you seen it?
Right. So the one thing I'm seeing is, based upon the input I'm getting from the public, and that comes in a lot of different ways. It comes from the community council meeting, it comes from next door, it comes from phone calls to our office, any number, Facebook, any number of things, is that I think there's more awareness of what the issues are within the community. And whenever one of those comes up, we try to find a place to address it, whether that's through this leadership team on the community council. For instance, the situation with law enforcement, the violation of various types of vehicle codes or break-ins or whatever it is. We have a focus point now for doing that. When we talk about bad roadways, we have a focus point through infrastructure to work with DOT to define what can we do to add projects to the CIP program. So I'm seeing what I think is more responsiveness from the county departments to really listen and understand what the issues are and trying to find reasonable solutions. Is there an easy solution to everything? No. Very few solutions are easy. But I do think there's more receptiveness, more understanding, and I can put together a list of the things that I think we've been accomplished because of the inputs that people are making. It makes a difference when people speak out about what's going on in their community, and we can take that message to some place to try to help the problem, right? So economic development is another characteristic area where we hear a lot of complaints about various things happening relative to construction. But when you look at the economic side of it, if we don't have economic development, then we're going to end up having to just curtail services. So the right kind of economic development, I think, is important. And I'm seeing responses through CDAC, that I think are very important. Affordable housing is one of the key things. So I think, in my view at least, there's a lot of things that are happening in the last couple of years, primarily because of resident inputs, but also because of state mandates, where the state is getting more aggressive in programs, and where the county now is having to get very serious about how do we deal with the affordable housing thing. It's not just going to be putting together RENA needs forecasts, it's how do you get projects defined and get them built and people, that housing available to the people who need it. So it's going to be a progression of it. I think what we're doing here is an example of what people across the county need to do. They need to be more vocal, they need to be more involved, they need to be impatient. I mean, they need to be patient, but they need to communicate what are the key issues. And if we as the Leadership Council need to define what can we do, what can we do working with county agencies or other agencies to try to better that situation. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's a continual process. How do we look at ways, innovation, technology? I think technology is a key area with a lot of this stuff because we now have a lot of technology to make things much simpler to implement and to execute than we have in the past. Software programs, et cetera, et cetera. So without belaboring that's what I'm seeing, and I appreciate all the feedback we're collecting, and we do try to listen and take some action associated with it, not just dispatch it as a lost cause, but like the CHP officer said, a lot of these things are driven by state law. It's not easy to get state law changed, so we're kind of stuck with what we can do as a county.
One thing a little bit different, I sat in on a meeting that our supervisor is one of the leads on the ad hoc committee relative to the development of the cannabis ordinances in the county. As everybody knows, the county approved the proposition to legalize all aspects of marijuana production and ultimate utilization for both recreational and medicinal purposes. The county staff has been going forward, and today they presented several draft ordinances that will go forward to implement the various things that the proposition allowed to move forward. The ordinances are available online through the county website, and they will be reviewed several times before they're presented to the Board of Supervisors in July, I believe, and then they'll go forward from there depending upon how the Board of Supervisors view the adequacy of the ordinances. Basically, we are creating in this county a whole new industry from the ground, literally the ground up, from the growth, the manufacturing, the production, the processing, the testing, the tracking, to the marketing. And it's a whole new legal industry. Not that that industry hasn't been around in some other form, but it will have an impact within the county. It will be something we will observe and see grow and be part of our condition in this county. It will be interesting.
Yeah, more to come on that. Just one quick note, we're expecting to be able to start receiving applications for people in the various parts of the cannabis industry in September of this year. So we're gearing up everything with the ordinance and stuff to start taking applications in. It'll be next calendar year before permits are issued for actual activities that are legal, given the conditions of the ordinance, but it is ramping up and getting going. So
that is post-ordinance. That's post-ordinance approval.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So, okay. Glenn?
Okay, don't have a whole lot. It's getting quite late. I'd like to go home. Economic development, people, if you've been down to movie theaters, you've seen they've kind of cordoned off the area where they broke ground on the apartments, the A-Loft or Aloft Hotel. I think it's A-Loft.
That's what it is.
I guess this will be coming relatively soon. As far as what's going on at CDAC, we're continuing to look at attainable housing, see what's going on within our county, within the state. We're also looking at vocational education opportunities that we don't really have for 8th through 12th grade and beyond. Through some analysis and information gathering, we're actually seeing that the high school district has quite a broad spectrum of non-traditional pre-college type courses, but there's some gaps in there, and we might make some recommendations. For that, another thing we're continuing to try to look at is keeping our young adults in our county, 18 to 35-year-olds. It's an area that is a significant gap where we lose people. They may leave the county for education, for other issues. We do see them coming back in their late 30s and early 40s when they're raising a family because they want to come back to where they grew up. But we do have that gap. So just trying to get our heads around that and figure out how we may be able to help the county continue to be viable, because that's a big age demographic for people who contribute a lot to their county.
Infrastructure, Green Valley, Blueberry improvements are scheduled to officially start tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to have any additional delay with the weather, but a lot of night work. But if you can avoid the area, do so. Improvements will be done. Probably by next year. So
what's going to happen with the
running all through the year?
What's going to happen with the bike lane? I like to bicycle through there, and they keep it.
They're going to be class 2.
It looks like it went from 9 feet to 3.
They're going to be class 2 bike lanes.
Well, there will be. What's going to happen during the construction?
Well,
avoid that area. I mean, where do you go?
Well, there's lots of other areas to ride bikes, but probably not the best to be riding through a construction zone, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's probably not your best choice.
I'm sure there's no accommodation for the bike path during construction. That's kind of a given.
I think you got to be reasonable in your expectations.
Yeah.
So there's lots of other bike lanes around there. So.
Would
you disagree?
Well, I like to go to church in the morning, and I ride from here down to St. John's, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be safe.
Catch you off.
Construction.
John, they said that originally it would be 120 days that they were going to wrap up the work from May, I think, through October, and then it would be running 2 lanes in each way. Is that no longer the case?
Look, Saratoga was supposed to be connected to Iron Point last year, right? So these things are moving targets. So I can't speak on behalf of that. I mean, they haven't started. So I never know what.
I heard the same. Now they're saying next year, next spring. Right. But originally it was going to be next summer.
So if we get a long stretch of good weather, we may be able to knock it out. If we get an early fall, we won't.
But the city of Folsom controls all of that with their contractors and stuff. Right. All we can do is try to influence them, encourage them to get things done.
Now the good thing is we're going to get a turn pocket, a long turn pocket from Shadowfax all the way to Sophia. So when that comes in and develops eventually, whatever comes in, we're not tearing up the road again. So at least they're having some foresight. I would have hoped they would have included maybe a little turnout to Shadowfax, but I guess I was asking for too much. And so we'll see how that develops. But so at least they're being a little bit forward thinking in the improvements that are going to be done. So okay.
So I'm going to continue the Healthy Communities discussion given the hour, because there's a lot to talk about with respect to the Mental Health Services Act, so we'll defer to that. So Cindy, you want to share some information on the June happenings?
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it's late, and this is in the back here as well. And links, when you go to the supervisor's webpage on the county website, I think you've got the link goes directly to all the information on these. Farmers Market's amazing. If you guys ever gone downtown or any Sunday to Farmers Market down there, we're starting the open fair we already discussed. Thursday night concerts every Thursday in Town Center. CSDs are having their concerts are coming up, so there's all kinds of fun stuff. And the fireworks, they're going to continue, even though they're building the start the apartments in Town Center, they'll still have the fireworks. They're going to put them in the water.
It'll be different this year, so.
Yeah, they already did a test, so it's
okay. Thank you. Any go backs? Anybody? All right, just a quick reminder, our next meeting is Monday, July 1st, back here. Our guest speaker is Rebecca Johnson, and she's going to be talking about the El Dorado County Elder Independent Adult Abuse Project. That's where they're actually doing surveys and understanding what's going on in some of these care facilities. John Rashler is very familiar with these. But it's the accountability of how the seniors in those facilities are being treated and the proper care that they've been given, and that's what the adult abuse part of it is they're going through monitoring things. So she has some important messages. I think Cindy and I heard it at one of the other meetings, but I think it's important for the public to understand what's going on there with these senior facilities. Some of them are operating really, really well, and some of them not so much. So I think it's an important topic.
That's one thing we neglected to mention. While
Yes.
John was here tonight, John Rosler was named the El Dorado County Senior of the Year.
Yes.
So
Yes.
congratulations to John.
Yes,
He's a lot of
thank you.
important work.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay. So with that, we're going to adjourn. Thank you very much for your attendance and appreciate your patience.
Wow.